What's up, YouTube? It's Nooch, the Console Samurai. Saw today on various news sources, um, Square Enix has looked at their recent years and they've come up with a solution for their lowered video game sales. They're going to go back on a lot of what they've done in the last few years. A lot of the things they've done, they've tried to incorporate more Western RPG elements into their flagship, Final Fantasy. And a lot of people do feel that the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, or Nova Chrysalis, is actually the worst of the entire series. Now, this is entirely understandable. There is a noticeable drop in the quality of the story. And if you think about it, why would Squaresoft ever go away from what made them as big as they were once? They're still pretty big, but they were once a giant in the gaming industry. They were Squaresoft. Then they merged with Enix and became Square Enix, which, I do feel that was not in their best interest. But they're going to go back. They've looked and they've said that it was a mistake. They feel that they have turned their back on their core demographic, and I have to agree. They did. Not completely, but there's definitely more of a, we're just going to make this kind of cookie cutter. There was too much crammed into the Final Fantasy 13 series. It wasn't the same. The Crystarium, that was kind of cool. But other than that, I wasn't over the moon about the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. I've always been a Final Fantasy fan. Particularly the ones on the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation. Those are, in my opinion, the best of the entire series. I am enjoying Final Fantasy XIV, but it's an MMO, and that's not really in the spirit of what Final Fantasy has always been. I do understand that everything evolves, but maybe they didn't have to name it Final Fantasy since there's very little to tie it into the rest of the series. Although it is a good game. I do enjoy it. But I do have to say, I think that Square Enix, going back on the things that they've done to try to appeal to more Western gamers, should try to increase their market share. Which I understand, it's a business, You do what you got to do to, make your business more profitable. I understand. But you don't do it at the expense of a product that we've all been familiar with. It's like Coke and Coca-Cola Classic, and then they came out with the new Coke, and people were not happy, and it took several years, and then new Coke went away, and Coke Classic came back, and it's kind of redundant now because there is no Coke. But it's definitely, I think, a good thing that Square Enix. It's a very good thing that Square Enix is going back to, what made them a successful gaming giant. They had Final Fantasy. They had Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore. Legend of Dragoon, I believe, was them. But they've had some awesome gaming franchises, and I hate to see them losing. I hate to see these franchises and these RPGs that that I loved when I was younger. I hate to see them just not living up to the potential of what they once were. And granted, it could be there could be a little bit of a nostalgia thing. I remember them better than they really were, but I have to say that I don't think that's it. I truly do think that when Square Enix decided that rather than focusing on what had always worked for them, when they wanted to just become, they just wanted to keep pumping out games just to get games out, not even really to make great games. And it shows. It shows in how long they've made people wait for Final Fantasy 13 Versus, which is now going to be Final Fantasy 14. For years, people have been talking about the remake of Final Fantasy 7, and they're not doing it. They appear to have no intention of doing it. Best remake they've done so far is they have re-released 10, and 10.2 is basically just a reheated version of themselves. I think they added some trophies, but there's really not much they've added, and I think they really could have. But I think this is a good thing. I think maybe future Final Fantasy games, they may be as great as they once were. You know, as great as Final Fantasy 6 and 5 and 8, 7. I like 7, 9, 10. You know, the ones from Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1, essentially. Those were great games. And I really do hope Square Enix, if you're listening to this, those were the games you need to use as inspiration. They were great. They were amazing games. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Square Enix was stupid for saying that they're going to go back to what they did back in the past? Do you think that it was stupid for them to ever do what they've been doing the last few years and essentially selling out? Or do you not care? Are you watching this going, who the hell still plays RPGs anyway? Either way, tell me what you think in the comments below, because I really do want to know what people think. I want to know if people think this is a good idea, because I think it is. But either way, once again, this is Nooch, the Console Samurai. See you around.